Hello, bonjour, konnichiwa, marhaba, yakwe, and hola. Welcome to our virtual city life recap, where you're going to have the opportunity to learn from 19 different city departments on how they work and operate. You're going to have the opportunity to also see how you can get connected and make a difference within our community. So, if you're interested in also participating in an in-person event, we offer them in fall and also in the spring. You can find us at www.cityofdubuque.org/citylife. So without further ado, let's begin. All right, without further ado, I get the awesome opportunity of bringing up Assistant Fire Marshal Derek. Derek, you ready?
As ready as I'm going to be.
All right, awesome. You can take it away.
All right. Well, first of all, I apologize if you can't see me. I'm doing mine on my iPad, and I'm not really techie. I don't have my 8-year-old daughter here to help me out, and I lost all my guys on fire calls. So we're going to try to get through this. My name is Derek Paulson. I'm the Assistant Fire Marshal with the Dubuque Fire Department. I have been with the fire department for just about 16 years, and it's been great. I actually kind of lived all over the world. I'm a Army brat, and my family is from Macokota and Bellevue, so about 25 miles away from here, and it's kind of where we settled back. And my wife and I just moved up to Dubuque probably 20 years ago because we were both working up here, and it's where we've settled. I love it just because growing up in a small town, kind of if you wanted to get something to eat at 9 o'clock at night because you were hungry real quick, there was nothing open. Now I can run to the local fast food joint any time of the day or night, and I can satisfy my my urge for food. But it's great living up here. Our kids, we have 4 kids, and they're able to kind of just experience everything, diversity, and know that there's a whole other world out there besides the little one that I kind of grew up with. So, and can everybody hear me and all that? Okay. At the end, I'll take this off, and then you can see me, so you know who you're talking to. The Chief Steinus what usually does this, but he is helping out with the point of distribution today that the fire department's doing. So he assigned this to me, but otherwise you'd have the head honcho here. First of all, this picture that I have up, that is of the Loris explosion that we had last fall. So that's kind of right there at ground zero, if you can see that. That was in the 16 years. Actually, I've been doing this for 20 because I was a volunteer in Bellevue for about 5 years before that. And I've been on hundreds of gas explosions or gas calls, but this was the first explosion. So it doesn't happen every day. Hopefully we'll never see another one of those in my career, but obviously if any of you drove down there, you saw a lot of damage. First of all, kind of our organizational staffing on the right-hand side there. We have 3 shifts, and a lot of times I get asked, oh, so, do you work the 7 to 3 shift or the 3 to 11 shift? And that's not how it works for the fire department. We work 24-hour shifts. And so we have shifts 1, 2, and 3. And the way it works is you work 3 24-hour shifts, and you have a day off in between, and then you get 4 days off after that 3rd day. So for example, we might have a shift that comes on and they work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, having Tuesday and Thursday off in between. And then they would get Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday off. And then they would come back on and they would start Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday, and it just kind of alternates. So you're always working, you work holidays, weekends, all that kind of stuff, but that's how our shift works out. We have minimum staffing of 22 personnel, which means that we have to have at least 22 people on every day. Now each shift right now, I believe we're at 27 on 2 of the shifts, and then 26 personnel on another shift. But you also have to take in account there, we have people off on vacation, people that are sick, people that are injured. So we have to always maintain that 22. So if we dip below that, then we have to hire overtime. That just gives us our minimum staffing on all of our rigs and stations throughout the city. Right now we have, when I got hired, we had 89 personnel, and that was from the chief down. That was uniformed personnel. In the last couple of years, they've been working on hiring additional firefighters because the goal was, I think in 2025, 26, somewhere in there, they were looking at possibly either moving a fire station or adding an additional fire station and 12 new personnel. So we have gotten one additional firefighter last year. This year, we had that one got frozen, but now it has been released. So we are going to be adding on an additional firefighter this year. So that'll give us, we'll be at 91 personnel. And then next year we're supposed to get, I think we were supposed to get 3 or 4. Whether that'll happen or not because of this darn COVID thing, I think it's anybody's guess. So some things have kind of gotten pushed back a little bit, and that probably will push, us possibly getting a new fire station or moving one, probably getting pushed back a little bit as well. I have 87 males on the department and 4 female personnel right now. I have 3 out of my 4 children are daughters, and I've 2 of them just graduated high school during this pandemic, and I've pushed both of them towards doing this. It'd be nice to work with my daughters on the job, but we'll see what they decide to do someday. We're not, for the fire department, it's kind of like the police department. It's not one of those, we get asked all the time, people will stop down, hey, can I get an application to join the fire department? And it's not that easy for the fire department to get hired. It's a process. And the first thing with Dubuque with our fire department that makes us unique is that for our fire department, you have to have your paramedic in hand before you can get offered a job. So that also, I know Chief Dulcie was talking about how his numbers for testing have been down quite a bit. That happens with us as well because, that's a big commitment. Going through your EMT and your paramedic, that takes, it's an over a year process. And so it's, basically you're going to college to get those skills and do that testing and stuff. And a lot of people, don't want to do that. They just kind of want to do the fast track and get hired somewhere and get a job. And I don't blame them. And then the other thing that we see is with this job, we see a lot of bad things. Obviously we're going into fires, but 80% of what we do is medical, and which is obviously why we require that paramedic. And there's a lot of people who, I don't like the guts and the blood and the death and things like that. So they don't know if they want to make that commitment, and then they get hired somewhere, and then they find out they don't like that stuff. So that's also why it's kind of our numbers have been way down. I think our last list that we took this last fall, I think we only had 13 people that made our list. And I think we had maybe a little over 20 that tested, and we have 7 hires. We took 7 off of that list of 13. So we only have 6 left on that list right now. But you have to have your paramedic in hand. But you also have to do the civil service testing, which consists of taking a written exam. And I haven't taken it in 16 years, so I don't even know. I know it's a couple hours long, and it's all kinds of basic math and reading and scenarios and things like that. And then there's also what's called a CPAT part of it, which is the physical agility part. And that's a 10-minute and 20-second test. And it just tests your physical abilities in a whole bunch of different areas. And it's basically just a pass fail. So if you complete all, I believe there's 8 or 9 stations within that 10 minutes and 20 seconds, you pass. If you're a second over, you don't. If you're a second under, you still pass. So it's just a pass fail. And then once you get through that process, then the city sends you this wonderful packet wanting to know everything about your life. And then some. I think they want blood samples too. I'm not sure. But then it all goes to the chief, and he decides on how many people he's going to bring in for the interview. So, like last time he brought in all 13 people. Now, if we had a list of 50 or 60 people, he would probably bring in 10 at a time or something and hire off that list. then you do your interviews, and then you get ranked. You get put on a list, and that list is good for a year. And what happens is we might hire you off that list in that year, and if we don't, then you have to do the whole process over again. You have to do the whole testing again. So that's another reason why we get some people that want to take the test. All of a sudden they think that being a firefighter or a paramedic is a great idea. They do it once or twice and they'll get hired, for whatever reason. And then the motivation isn't there anymore. So then they won't test, or they get hired somewhere else because they got to go on with their life and things like that. And it can be kind of defeating. You get hired that first time or whatever. So the ones that a lot of times that we hire are ones that have tested numerous times, and not just for us, but at other departments, and have learned what we're looking for, what they need to do to succeed and things like that. So really, if this is a job that you want to get into, you just have to stay motivated and keep testing, keep plugging away, keep making yourself better, and making yourself desirable for us. And like I said, just not giving up. With our organizational staffing, we have the chief, and then on those 3 shifts, we have an assistant chief, and they work the 24-hour shifts right alongside with that core group of 27 people that's on their shift. And they work those 24-hour shifts. They go out on all the calls with them. They're the ones that are there for, any incidences that might happen, any, complaints, anything like that. Then we also have an EMS supervisor, and that person handles all of our EMS components. We do have 4 ambulances. 2 of them are ran full time, so they're staffed full time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with personnel that are assigned to the ambulance. And then we also have 2 backup ambulances that anymore, since our 3rd ambulance, backup ambulance, would go out occasionally when I first got hired 16 years ago. And it's nothing now for that 3rd and 4th ambulance to be out almost on a daily basis. And that goes out, people that are on our ladder trucks, which is a little bit more, they're not as busy on the fire side of it. If there's a 3rd and 4th ambulance call, they'll jump on the extra ambulances and they'll take those out. And like I said, they're out quite a bit anymore. So we've been doing some pilot programs. One of them was staffing a 3rd ambulance on the west end of town, because that's our biggest district and busiest. And so we did that for 3-4 months. And if we had extra people, and when I say extra people, I don't mean, the fire department's got extra people, don't need to hire more. We would take people, because if we didn't have as many people on vacation or something like that, or people that were injured, we would put them on the 3rd ambulance. And we did a study, and it really reduced our response times out in the west end, because instead of a ambulance coming from Station 4, which is at University and Degree and View there, now they had an ambulance that was coming right from Station 2 on JFK. And so that's one of the things that we're looking at trying to do is we get a few more firefighters hired, we're going to staff a 3rd ambulance full time. That's one of our goals, is to do that. And whether that would be them running out of Station 2 there at JFK, or, depending on where they would decide to either relocate a fire station or build a new one someday, it could be out of that station as well. So the EMS supervisor's a busy person. We ran about 6,500 calls last year, and put that in perspective. 16 years ago when I got hired, we were running about 4,400 calls. So we're up 2,000 calls in 16 years. And 80% of those calls are EMS related. So he has a big job ahead of him trying to take care of all that. We also have a fire prevention bureau, which is staffed by another assistant chief, which is the fire marshal. And we have a new fire marshal now. He just took over a couple months ago, Kevin Esser, so he's my boss, and then I'm the assistant fire marshal. And we handle everything under the sun as well, I guess, as far as fire prevention. So anytime there's a fire, we do the investigations. It's kind of fallen on my lap recently because we had the retirement, and Kevin, he's actually leaving next week for 2 weeks to arson school. So he'll be learning how to do the investigations. So right now I'm I'm kind of it when it comes to fires, and it seems like it's been really busy lately. So, but we do all the fire investigations when we're called in. So the Loris College, the Clark Drive one, you name it, we come in for them. We also handle all the inspections. So any business or any building that's in the city of Dubuque that is other than your private residence, we inspect those, and we have certain parameters on how often a business gets inspected, depending on what it is. So like gas stations, anything that has a fuel pump, they'll get inspected every year. So I'm getting ramped up to start doing those again. Schools we get into every year, but then kind of your mom and pop shops and places like that, we try to get those on an every 3-year basis. And in the off years, we just created a new inspection form where they'll actually, we'll send it to them on the off years where we're not actually coming on site, and they have to fill out the form and kind of do their own inspection, and then they send it back to us. So as you can imagine, a city of 60,000 people, there's a lot of buildings in the city. So we stay busy with those. We take care of, all code compliance questions. Our phone's always ringing because somebody wants to build something or change something, and they want to know, can they do it? How do they do it to meet code? We take care of all the public education stuff. So I go to schools on a yearly basis. Anytime an organization or anything like that wants some sort of a presentation on fire safety, life safety, it doesn't really matter what it is. I'll put something together and I'll come out and do that. I just did a presentation at University of Dubuque last week, a forensics class. They wanted to know about fire cause and origin, so I did a class for them. So yes, we we do quite a bit of stuff, and I'll go to the next slide here, and obviously it talks about what we do. We also handle all the hydrants in the city of Dubuque, so those always get flushed. You'll see us out there, especially spring, summer, and fall, doing all that. We handle all the community engagement, so you'll see us anytime there's a take back the night or any type of event where they want the fire department, police department, that to be down there. We handle that as well. That's in my department. We also have a training chief, and they handle all of our training. So our guys and girls do probably 700 to 800 hours worth of training just about every month. Some of that's on their own, some of that's company training, which is just their small little station. Some of it is department wide. So you'll see the whole department will run through whatever training. We have a lot of people that are working on maybe going back to school and getting their degrees and stuff like that. So there's, it's funny, when I first got on, it used to be the joke that, everybody thought that the fire department just sat around all day in their recliners eating ice cream and waiting for the tones to go on a fire call. And that maybe that's the way it was back in the 30s and 40s, but I can assure you that our firefighters, from the time they get here till till 5 o'clock is our time where we have to, they have to do stuff. After that, it's their time. But you stop at any of the stations even after 5 o'clock, and you'll see guys and girls outside, sitting at a bench tying knots. That's not just because they're bored. I mean, they're training. There'll be people out doing night training. There'll be people upstairs till 2 o'clock in the morning working on their degrees, or studying for a promotional, or just, to get better. So not a lot of sitting around with nothing getting done. I'll assure you that. Some of these pictures that are on there, just kind of show, our hydrants that we're doing. We have a smoke alarm program, where we'll come into if a home needs smoke alarms. We have a free program that we do with the Red Cross, and I run that, and I have to do the numbers. I haven't done them in a little bit, but I think we've done something close to probably 10,000 smoke alarms and probably 2,500 to 3,000 homes throughout the city, all free of charge. So I'm like the pit crew of smoke alarm installs at this point. I can get them up in a jiffy. But we also do hazardous materials. You can see there was an anhydrous tank that flipped over, and our hazmat team got called out to that. That was actually out in the county. So our hazardous materials team, the fire department covers that. So We handle obviously in the city of Dubuque, but we also go out in the county. We have an agreement with them, and the county pays the fire department, an X amount of dollars. And so anytime there's an incident out in the county, we will respond to that and take care of that for them. Upper right-hand corner, that's a high angle rescue. We have a high angle rescue team. They do high angle, lower angle, cave rescue, water. Obviously, we have a lot of water around here, so swift water, ice rescue, open water, anything like that. So as you can see, we're busy with all that type of stuff, and we don't get cats out of trees. That's probably the one thing we don't do. They'll come down on their own at some point. If you drive around Dubuque, you won't see any cat carcasses in trees because they do come down. But we have rescued cell phones out of sewers and all kinds of things like that. So there's not a lot that we won't do. We're just here to kind of help out however we can. Real quick on our fire stations. If you're not familiar, we have 6 stations throughout the city. The first one is fire headquarters, which I'm at right now. It's at 11th and 9th Street, 11 West, or excuse me, Central and 9th. That's our largest one. That's where all of the, myself, the chief, our EMS, all the offices are down here, our secretary's down here. And it houses our hazmat truck, big ladder truck, our backup ladder truck, 2 of our ambulances, our boats, you name it, we keep it there. Station 2, which is up on JFK, that's a 3-person fire station. So there's 3 firefighters there at all times. And that's the station that we did the pilot out of with the extra ambulance, had them running out of there. Stations 3 and 4. Station 3 is at the end of Central Avenue, 32nd and Central. I believe this might be the newest station that we had, and that was built maybe in the 60s or 70s. That one as well has 3 firefighters running out of it. And then Station 4, and that's just an engine company that runs out of Station 2 and Station 3. They just have an engine company. Station 2 also has a reserve up there. So if one of our fire trucks breaks down, we keep an extra one up there. And then Station 3, that actually has our drawing a blank right now, but so if we had any fires kind of up in grassy areas, anything like that, we could send that truck, and it's got like an all-terrain 4x4 vehicle as well that we could do a rescue if we had to go, somebody was rappelling somewhere and they tripped out in a trail or something, we could go back in there and get them so that's what's kept at that station. Station 4 is University in Grandview. That runs a ladder truck and also an ambulance out of there full time. And so there's always at least 4 firefighters at that station. And then what we did here, I believe it was 2 years ago, is our ladder truck here is the only ladder truck that actually has its own EMS district. So it goes out on medical calls all the time. And so we were putting a lot of wear and tear on that ladder truck, and we try to keep the ladder trucks for about 30 years, 20 years frontline, and then 10 years as a backup. And we were putting on so many miles on it because it's going out all the time on calls. So we actually purchased we call it 509, but it's kind of a quick attack truck. So it looks like a pickup truck with a lot of stuff on the back of it. And actually they take that out now on the routine medical calls and things like that. And when they go out doing inspections and whatever, but then if there is a fire call that comes in, they'll run back to the station, or if they're at the station, then they'll jump on the ladder truck and take that out. So, because we're trying to get the most bang for our buck, and the ladder trucks are $1.5 million upwards, and that's why we keep them for almost 30 years. So we want to try to keep ladder 512 around as long as we can. Station 5. Now these 2 stations, Station 5 is at South Grandview, kind of across from the old milk house there. And then Station 6 is at Romberg. Those are both just 2-person engine companies. As you can see, there's not much room for anything else to be stored there. There's barely enough room to open our doors to get into them to respond on calls in the first place. But these both stations are about 120, 130 years old. Actually, when they've done renovations, they've uncovered old oats and stuff from when they had the horse-drawn vehicles and things like that. So Uh, cool little stations. They've definitely they're nostalgic, but I said 130 years old. They've seen some better days. So one of these stations is, if for everybody that's on here, it's your station. One thing I do encourage you, and obviously right now with COVID, we can't, but we always otherwise have an open door policy. So if you're ever walking by, want to see what the station looks like, want to take a tour, once the city says we can have that stuff again, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. I encourage you to stop down and visit with them. If the doors are open, stop in, talk, take a tour. We can't take you upstairs just because that's kind of our personal area, but love to talk to you, show you the fire trucks, fire engines, ladder trucks, whatever. Ask whatever questions. These are your stations. So you just let us stay there. Kind of how to find out about us is you can go to our website, the city of Dubuque, and then go to rescue and fire, and that'll have all kinds of information on there. There's some things that I am working on trying to get revamped because there's some new wordage and some things I like to do. So hopefully in the next year or so, you'll see some changes on that. But a lot of good information, different things you can click on to learn, more about us, our hiring process, our different divisions, and fire suppression versus our hazmat versus what I do, things like that. And then also we have our Facebook page, which I'm the one that runs it. So if you've been on it before, I'm the person behind the screen. Again, I have to have my 8-year-old daughter help me with a lot of that stuff. But this is our Facebook page. We try to keep it updated as much as possible with information on fire prevention things, in community engagement events that we're going to be at or that we were at. Calls, sometimes it's hard to update on calls, and we've got enough other Dubuque in Pursuit and Dubuque Scanner and all that keeps it up to date. I don't really have to go on there and keep it, plus we're in the heart of it. We're investigating or we're battling the fire or whatever it is. So we really can't take time to kind of update. I know the police department, they have kind of a PIO who, they're separate, so they're not really involved in the call itself. So that's why they can kind of update a little bit quicker than what we can. But I do encourage you to go to that. We try to, like I said, put on their safety tips and all that kind of stuff. Maybe not on a daily basis, but fairly regular basis. And if you go to it and you like it, then it makes it look like I'm doing my job. So kind of about our equity plan. Ours is under construction. We really never had one. It was just one of those things. And the chief is working very diligently on getting it created. And you see, it's very important to the fire department, to its personnel. We have in the last year or two have kind of directed some of the programs that we do with that equity piece at the forefront. And some of that involves like our smoke alarm program. Before, it was just whoever called, we would and wanted a smoke alarm, we'd go put them in. Didn't really ask any questions, things like that. But now we're focusing more on, we'll still do that, but we're also focusing on going to areas where we know that they really could use them. That's where our fires are. Maybe it's just an area that, smoke alarms are $15-20 a pop. And I can tell you at my house, I have 10 or 12 of them in my house because we have a newer home. That money adds up. So we want to focus on those areas where, hey, we want to help you out because we want you to be safe. So we're really focusing on that. We might even look, we also look at somebody calls us and we look at the address, and then we look at somebody else that calls us. We usually just go in order, but now we're prioritizing who gets them first, because we know where they need to be and who we want to have them. One of the other things that we're working on is cardiac arrest and health with minorities. That was something we never looked at before as well. Quite frankly, some of us have been blessed with having more than others. And so we get that health care and things like that. And it kind of leaves other people behind. And so we're working on being able to get, maybe go to more health clinics. When we go to events, what can we do to, here's some more information on healthy things, places you can go to get more health care, to get those referrals, things like that. So like I said, it's under construction. We're working on it. We're probably going to stumble here and there. And we're going to have people tell us, hey, we'd like you to look at this or do that. And we encourage that. But we have to start somewhere. So that's what we're doing. Job opportunities and ride-alongs. I kind of explained to you earlier on how we do our hiring process. So it's not just coming in and getting a job application and filling it out, and then we interview it real quick. Obviously there's a process with that, but if it's something that somebody's like, hey, I am a paramedic, or I'm going through the paramedic right now, or I have a son or daughter who's going to be graduating high school, and I want that they're interested in this. How do we learn more? If you go to the human resources department on our City of Dubuque website, they have our jobs posted, and it usually, I believe the old one stays up there, so you can kind of see what we, what our qualifications are, what the job description is, all that kind of stuff, what the pay, everything. And then it's also on our if you go to our site as well, we keep that up there all the time, and it tells you how far you have to live within the city or within the lines of Dubuque County, and all that kind of stuff. Facebook page, like I talked about, Dubuque Channel 8, we put it in the newspaper, all that kind of stuff. We also have, though, a ride-along program, and that's for anybody. And we try to keep it 16 years or older. We've had a few people that were, maybe 14, 15. But that's where you get a hold of me. I'll send you a form, a packet, and I don't need a blood sample and all that kind of stuff. But you can come then, and if you're under 18, you have to have it signed by a parent. If you're over 18, then no big deal. But you can come and do an 8-hour ride along with us. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, and you come here to fire headquarters. You get to ride out with our assistant chief that's on duty for the day. So they go to all the calls that we have in the city, and you get to go see kind of obviously we're not going to let you go in harm's way or anything like that. We're not going to let you be hands-on, but you get to observe. If there's a fire, you're going to sit in his or her vehicle, and you're going to listen to how they, operate in that fire scene. If there's training down here or out at our training tower, you get to go and observe that. Depending on what it is, they might even let you participate a little bit. And then, you're down here all day, so you get to pick the brains of everybody down here and ask questions and find out more. And that's open to anybody. And I encourage it. Like, again, right now it's unfortunately shut down because of this stupid COVID thing, but hopefully we've allowed EMT students and paramedic students to start riding with us again, because they need a certain amount of hours. So we have opened that back up. So hopefully the ride along will open up soon as well. Like I said, that's my information right there if anybody is interested in it. We are involved in lots and lots and lots of community engagement events every year. Obviously last year that was almost zero. One thing we did do last year, because we couldn't go to all these events because they were all canceled, is I thought we had all these people that, these kids that were having birthdays, and they couldn't have anybody there. Grandpa and grandma had to drive by in their car and look out the window like, lost little puppies and things like that. So we did almost 100 birthday drive-bys last year. And that consisted of myself and my fire vehicle, and then whatever I would get that engine or ladder truck that was in their district. And sometimes we'd get an ambulance to come along, and sometimes a police officer, police car as well. And we'd go do a little parade drive-by. And sometimes it was just us. Sometimes they had, more family members and cars involved as well. And I would gave them a little packet of like a certificate and a little candy bar and stuff like that. And it was a small thing, but it really lit the kids' eyes up. it showed that the world is still going, and it's, it's going to get better. But so that kept us busy. But otherwise, we do hands only CPR training. We do stop the bleed training for anybody that asks us. It's, all free of charge. I'm not sure, Temo, if you can see this person putting on some gear there. That was somebody that stopped down last year or 2 years ago for this event. I thought I'd bring that up. So
I remember.
We timed him. I believe we timed you because
Yep.
we have to have it on in 60 seconds, and I don't remember if you made it or not.
I was close. I was close.
I think you were like at 45 seconds. I think you killed it. So. But I believe that was the same event 2 years ago, when you guys came. But we have tours. We do career fairs. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So, and it's all just, we get asked to go to all that stuff. Any of the trainings, presentations, any of that type of stuff, that's all free of charge. It's just a matter of asking us, and giving us plenty of time to get prepared for all that. So if you ever have any events that you want us to come participate in or teach or anything like that, just get a hold of me, and we'd love to set that up. We love being out in the public. We like getting out of the station. I kind of got goofy on there. So one of the new things that we're doing that hasn't been done before is you probably always heard public education, fire prevention. Well, it kind of took on a new term, and it's called community risk reduction. And what it is in the past, we would look at, all of a sudden somebody just decided to have an idea one day, hey, I want to start going to schools and teaching kids bicycle safety. And there was really no reason behind it. That's just something they also wanted to do. It interested them. So that's how a program started. Well, now what across the country, they've said, you know what, we need to have a rhyme and a reason for why we do things. And so they call it community risk reduction, which means now we start looking at all of our data from the past years and looking at where are the things that we're lacking. Like, what are the problems within our community that we need to address? And so we started doing that. And so this year we looked at the last 3 years worth of data on calls for service, EMS runs, all that kind of stuff. And we came up with 3 things that we're focusing on this year. And so you're going to, if you go to any of our events, you're probably going to see this handouts. You're going to hear us talk about this stuff. And don't think, boy, the fire department just ran out of things to talk about and they keep talking about the same things over and over again. That's not the reason. These are the things that we've deemed this year based on all of our data and stuff that we know is a problem and that we want to see the numbers come down on. So the 3 initiatives that we're working on this year is cooking safety. Cooking across the board, across the country, is the biggest call for fire calls. It's certainly, Dubuque is no different. That's one of the main things that we go to all the time. And not all cooking calls are ones that end up in this major fire that make the front page of the Telegraph Herald. We go to things all the time for burnt food, things that could have really have turned out differently had they not had a smoke alarm, or had they not just been in the next room and caught it before it got too big, things like that. So one of the things that we're working on this year is cooking safety, and that's across the board. But then we've also narrowed it down to certain places, maybe larger establishments, retirement facilities, things like that, where we've gone to a number of times for these incidences, and we're gonna target them a little bit more, and maybe do quarterly presentations with them. We've also identified a few minority groups that they cook different than their culture. They cook things differently, and so that's had some fires. So we're working on getting some material printed that's in their language. We're going to also go to some events with them, and there might just be that they're not understanding kind of some of the concepts that we, some of the same things that how I cook and how they cook are different, and we want to bring to the forefront kind of safety ways that they can cook, so we can prevent those incidences. The one in the middle didn't turn out real well on here, but we have for those of you that are either new to Dubuque or whatever, we have an illegal burn policy. And so we have a recreational burn where you can have yourself a campfire, but it's got to be in an approved container. You can only burn certain wood products that are, cut dry firewood, things like that. But for some reason, we have a lot of people in the city that, they want to burn their yard waste. They want to burn their beds and all the other stuff, mattresses and you name it. And a lot of times we've done in the past where we'll give you a warning the first time, because a lot of times people don't know. And then the second time we show up, we're going to have to enforce a little bit more, because, we're living in a city where, I grew up out in the country. We could burn all that stuff, and we had acres and acres and acres where if embers went anywhere, it wasn't going to land on another house. I didn't have neighbors, so if they had health issues, they, asthma, whatever, it wasn't going to bother them. But here in the city, we have those problems, we have those things. So that's one of the other things that we're going to be enforcing this year is our municipal infractions enforcement type thing for people that are repeat offenders with the burn policy. And then another thing we identified was it's fall prevention. Obviously in the city, we have a lot of older people, and we go to a lot of, again, it's kind of like the cooking. We've identified some areas where we go all the time for falls. And so this Remembering When is a national program where we're going to present some presentations to these places. And then if we want, we will, if they invite us, we will schedule a time when we can come to their apartment, their home, wherever. And we will actually do a sit down with them, and we'll go through their house, and we'll find trip hazards. My grandma, who's not with us anymore, but she had rugs on top of rugs. I mean, it's like every room you went into, there was another rug, and you always tripped over them when you walked in to any room. So, it's things like that, extension cords, fire, life and fire safety things we're going to be looking for. Give them suggestions on things maybe they can purchase that would help them, maybe get out of the tub easier, get in, whatever it is. So those are the 3 initiatives that we're really aiming for this year. And then we'll look at the numbers next year and see if we've made an impact. If we haven't, or if we feel like there's still more to do, we'll keep all 3 of them. If we feel like we've got a good handle on one, then we might, look at a different thing that we might want to work on. Not that we're going to just put these aside, but just we might focus a little bit heavier on something else then. But you may see all 3 of these again next year. So those are the things that we're working on right now. We are working. I know the Chief Dalsing talked about how they are accredited. We have just gone through the accreditation process and sent all of our paperwork in. So we're looking at getting accredited on the fire department side. I can tell you, we did not have a full-time, a lot of departments have a full-time person designated right for that accreditation. And so it doesn't take them as long to get through it all. For us, we didn't have that option. So we've all been working on it on certain pieces. And so it's taken us quite a while to get here. So it was a relief when they sent it in a couple months ago. So we should have somebody coming on site here in the next couple months to really make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed and all that. And, it really it put everything in perspective, places that we were missing, lacking, things that we needed to step up to. The community risk reduction piece of it was one of those. There's a lot of other areas as well. So we're really hoping that in the next couple months that we will be accredited as well. And then we'll just keep working at improving our department, and going forward. So I just threw in a few pictures here real quick. Again, this picture right here, that is kind of on the backside of that explosion there on Loris Boulevard. The building that's standing behind you with the ladder back there kind of attached to the wall. If you stood on that side of that building, you could actually see where that wall got blown out and then pushed back in. It was all wavy and stuff. That wasn't the age of the building. That was from the explosion. It basically blew it out, blew it back in. And inside that building, you could see where it had actually pulled away from the trim and stuff. So it was pretty amazing that nobody got hurt in that, is more than what they did. This fire here, this was the one just a couple weeks ago up at Clark. That was a 3-story building with a basement, and as you can tell, that is all that was left of it. I'm sure some of you have probably driven by there since then. So that was one of the fires I am investigating. But you can see how hard my job can be sometimes when you've got like the largest explosion there and then a fire like this, and where do you start? What do you look at? Things like that. So these are a couple other ones that we had. The one on the left with all the fire blowing out, that was over off of Cheney here this past winter. That was the one that was in the paper of the gentleman who admitted that he had started it. Could have been a lot worse. That was the first police officer I was seeing. That was from his body cam. So you can see it was going pretty good and starting to go to the apartments on both the right and left side of it. So our guys and girls did a great job of getting that stopped real quick. And really, there was only damage inside. His apartment was destroyed, but the other ones, other than some damage on the outside, didn't do anything on the inside. The one on the right here, that was one that we had just here this past, it was Christmas Day night. My wife was real happy when that phone call came in, but got me out of some in-law stuff, so I'm not going to complain. But again, that fire there, they had 20 people in that house at Christmas time having a Christmas party, and another person showed up 2 minutes before the fire was coming through the roof, and there was no fire coming through the roof 2 minutes earlier. So that fire burned in that on that attic while they were in there having a Christmas party with no indication that there was anything going on. So you can see the little glowing, and that all of a sudden came through the roof that fast. So again, they all got out. We were able to get all their Christmas presents out, and they actually left the scene and went to a different house to finish off Christmas while we stayed at their house and took care of it for them. My information's there on the left. If anybody has any questions for me or wants any information down the line. Otherwise, that's kind of all I had. I'll open up to questions. I'll see if I can get this back so people can see what I look like. There we go.
Awesome. Thank you so
Hey, I
much.
did it without my 8-year-old too. I am so happy.
All right, what questions do we have?
I think they fell asleep.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that my kids and I were two of my kids, because I have 3 kids now. 2 of my kids were and I were in a car accident in 2017, and firefighters responded, and obviously a police officer did as well. And my kids got teddy bears from the firefighters, and they held on to those for days because they had just, they got so shaken up. They were so little, and
Sure.
and they felt so safe. So I just wanted to say thank you for that program. Is that still something that the firefighters are doing for kids?
We carry those stuffed animals. It's just something that we order, and we keep them in the ambulance, and they're not just for kids. If we have an adult that needs one, we'll give it to an adult. Sometimes some of the firefighters here hang on to them. So, but no, we have them.
So
Derek, thanks for being here. Oh, sorry, James.
Go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I was just going to say that, pardon me, I'm new to town, but I'm here to work with Heritage Works, and we have been known for doing historic preservation. Something we're moving to is historic activation, and I think a big portion of Dubuque, but also probably a lot of maybe some of the properties you guys deal with are historic properties, maybe some that are older, and obviously known for trying to save the properties, but really, I think there's a lot of ways we could work together to help keep the folks who are in those safe right now, right? Whether they're commercial or, over commercial, or I don't know if you guys do, are part of the multifamily, whether that's through code or, finding funding sources that we could work through together to help folks who are in these places now to both preserve the buildings, but also make sure everybody's safe in there. And so I just wanted to kind of open the door and say anything we could do to work together, I think would be super valuable.
Yeah, no, like I said, my information's on the thing there. So when you get back into town, look me up, and we'll go from there.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned the ride along with the fire department.
Mm-hmm.
And is there any other additional program, assuming non-COVID, that used to happen?
We don't have like an auxiliary. We don't have um, a program like an Explorer program like that. We did in the past, and believe it or not, there really wasn't that. From what I've been told, there wasn't a huge outpouring for it, so it kind of went away. I don't know if we looked at it now, but really the ride along. We also do an internship that has been sidelined, obviously with COVID as well. Where that's a paid position. I think 20 hours a week for a certain amount of weeks. And we did two of them a year, once in the spring and one in the fall. And we'd hire somebody, and they would come, and we'd kind of figure out what they can do, what they can bring to the table, and we might have them work on a project. We've had a couple of college kids that were studying this or that, and we would say, hey, we've been wanting to work on putting together a video for recruitment, and you're just happen to be a communications person. Can you work on this? But then they also get to go on calls, and they get to stay overnight and get hands-on training stuff as well. But that's sidelined as well right now.
Oh, I wasn't looking for a job. I'm retired. I'm 74.
I say that earlier.
74, just got a pacemaker, so I'm not looking for a job. This isn't a job fair for me, but in Idaho, the Citizens Academy there involved police and fire. Mm-hmm. And amongst other things, we got to turn cars into convertibles with the jaws of life and sure. Things like that. So apparently the ride along is what I would look forward to here.
Okay. Yeah. And like I said, we've got a lot of young firefighters. So it's not something that we wouldn't necessarily consider in the future, maybe looking at that. But right now, COVID has consumed us for everything. So that's all we're focusing on at this point.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Derek. I'm not sure if you know the answer to this question or if Temwa does, but I was curious, does Dubuque have a community emergency response team cert?
To my knowledge, we do not. I know other cities do, but to my knowledge, Dubuque does not have one.
You can guess, Kenny, probably what I'm doing right now. Looking it up. Just in case, because I personally, like Derek, not that I'm aware of, but just in case if maybe there was something I missed.
Right. Yeah, like I said, 15 years, I've never heard it mentioned. I mean, I know what it is. I've from going to other departments and talking to other people around the country, but I just don't think Dubuque has that.
Right, because San Francisco, where I'm originally from, we do have CERT, and San Francisco likes to do things differently. So it's called Neighborhood Emergency Response Team, and it's under the jurisdiction of the San Francisco Fire Department. So I was just curious if Dubuque had something like that, or would there be any interest in developing a CERT program down the road?
I'm the wrong person to ask because, like I said, the boss man is the one who's not here today. But I would certainly, Dubuque is, always open to anything, at least the idea. So, it's not something I'm not going to say, no, they wouldn't be. It would just have to be, obviously researched and things like that. But, it could be something that they decide to run with, so.
I was also going to add, Kenny, which is great about how big, small our community is that you might be a great starter for that. For different community members, bring that up and things like that, because that's what's cool is that you get to transplant those ideas wherever you were able to kind of see how that model works. For any of us, and we see how we can have an application here within Dubuque. It's worth a shot, it's worth a try, it's worth having those conversations, seeing if there's other individuals or community members that also have that same perspective and mindset and want to be able to back that. So totally possible.
Okay, great. Because this actually came up in conversation with Maggie Baker in our, let's see, I'm blanking on her position title, but focusing on a community-based education, and I brought this up with her, and she said talk to Temwa about it.
I'm all about starting stuff.
I do remember asking Mike the city manager. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name, his last name. But I had asked, I didn't know what it was called, but I knew like the premise of what community response team was. And he said that Dubuque doesn't have one yet, but that it's being looked into. I don't know what that, other than that's all he said. So I think it is on the city of Dubuque's radar, is what I
More than
gathered.
we do.
It was from City Life. I asked him a boatload of questions, and so I just didn't have a lot of questions for the fire department because he had talked about so many wonderful things. And so I appreciate that you guys are working on equity as well, and seeing where you guys can keep moving forward in that. And you're right that you have to start with something.
Right.
And I see you guys doing that. And my family has benefited from the free smoke detectors. We bought a house that we're currently in, and it's an old house. Part of it is over 100 years old, and we definitely needed new smoke detectors. And you're right, they're not cheap. So I was like, the city's saying they're free, I'm going to take advantage of that. And yeah, so thank you for all you guys are doing and being a part of our community.
Well, thank you, and appreciate that you were able to get those smoke alarms in. That's what we care about.
Awesome, awesome. Any other questions? All right, with that being said, thank you so much, Derek. This was awesome. Again, I wish we had the opportunity of being in person, because not only seeing the fire trucks and the ladders and everything else like that, and also competing and trying to go into the suits and stuff is so much. Whenever you get an opportunity, for all of you, take some time and go ahead and take a tour at post-COVID and all that good stuff. But